Hello, everybody. Evan Abrams here. Let's get that microphone out of the frame. Back to you with another video challenge today. We're going to be keeping it in Adobe After Effects, and we're going to be creating some lovely stretchy kind of stickers that we can export as a GIF or GIF and then use in, say, Instagram or put up on Imgur, or maybe you could use them even in Adobe Express and then put them over top of your various content. This is great for sort of text callouts that you want to be doing, or maybe something you want to do textual with like a logo, but these are great ways to add a little bit of spice to your various contents. So hopefully you're going to enjoy making them here in After Effects. If you have any questions, get at me in the comments. I want to help you out if I can. Robert, good to see you. Oliver, L3RD, Sam. Hey, what's going on, Sam? Holding it down for us here. Clever Devlin, always a good time. Lee, hello. So please let me know if you see anything, you're confused by anything that I'm doing. Get at me in the comments. I want to help you out if I can. And I also want to see what you make. So with all the challenges we've been doing this week, anything that you see us do, get on over to the Discord and share it with me. We want to have a look at those because next Friday, we're going to be dipping in and having a look at everything that community has created, and we'll be hopefully seeing your stuff there. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's make some stuff. Here's my screen. Here we are inside of After Effects, and let me just adjust. So your interface might look like this. I'm going to adjust mine a little bit so that my face is out of the way down there in the corner. So you can change your windows wherever you want in here. Now, what we're going to be doing is taking this text and making it stretch and then snap from one side of the screen to the other. Now, if I tap the U key, which will bring up all of the various keyframes, there's a few of them, but don't worry. We're going to build this up one movement at a time, one change at a time, and we're going to be creating something very simply. It's not as hard as it looks sometimes. So hopefully that's where we're going. We're going to get there together. And first off, we need to create a new composition. Now, we're going to be working with a pretty wacky size of composition here. And what we need to do is have something with a width and a height that will conform to whatever we want this sticker to be. But don't worry, you can always change these values later. So I'm going to actually make this 540 by 540. You want to keep things pretty small. If you're going to be exporting a GIF that you intend to use in other places, it has to load quickly. So that's why we tend to make things that are quite small. And then frame rate wise, GIFs are pretty loose. So you could have all kinds of different frame rates. Keep them low, a low number if you want something that feels very hand-drawn and choppy. Keep it very high if you want something that is very smooth and fluid. Again, the more frames you have per second, the larger that GIF or GIF is going to be. And so just keep that in mind as you are creating these things. And let's go ahead and call this sticker, like so. Okay. We'll let the computer think for a while. Hopefully nothing bad happens. Hopefully I haven't been running too many updates. And we need to start making some text out here, but it's not going to stay as text. So Command T, bring up our text tool, and type out the word stretch, maybe stir, etch, like this. I'm going to shrink that down like so, and we're not really going to need too much of a stroke on this, so I'll bring that down as well. Maybe something like 2 pixels, something like this, something small, right? Let's maybe go, let's go down to 80 point, and let's get these things nice and together like so. And to start with, I'm going to take our paragraph, we're going to just bump everything over to the side like that. So this is where we begin, right? We've typed out our text. It's contained within a type tool. And what's quite lovely about this, right, is if you wanted to leave it as a text layer, you're able to animate the characters and the words and per line, but that's not what we're doing today. We want to actually animate the paths that make up this object. So we need to convert this, and you can take any type of vector layer, which this is, right click, and you can come on down to create. You can say create shapes from text. Now by clicking on that, we now have sort of poked out the eye of the previous layer down here, so we don't see stretch anymore. and we see stretch outlines. So Stretch Armstrong outlines, that's right. I'm going to just go ahead and use my align panel. If you don't see your align panel, come to Window, grab your align panel, get this aligned into the middle center so we can be nice and organized. And we're zoomed in quite a lot. We're at 400% zoom on this, so if it looks a little pixelated, that is why. But what have we created? Well, if we twirl into our text layer, we are going to, sorry, into our shape layer, excuse me. In our contents, you're going to see STRETCH. These are all groups, and these are groups. If you twirl into those, we are going to find stroke, fill, transform information, and then within this little group, within a group, we see paths, and these are what we are actually going to be animating. So this is the property we are after. Oh, but it took so long to actually get to those paths. That was bothersome. So instead, I'm going to type up here, PATH, and that is going to go ahead and bring up all of the path properties, or all of the properties that have the word path in them. So now we can just come on through here. Let's see. Let's start at 1 second, say. Oh, and can I show it again what we are working on? Yeah, for sure. Here's where we're going. If you came in late, if you missed it, this is where we're going with it. This is what we're trying to make. So hopefully this is going to make sense for how we're driving towards that. And like I said, we needed to create the stuff. We needed to turn it into a shape layer. And now we need to get these elements actually moving. So here at 1 second on the timeline, I'm going to click for all of these paths. All of these paths here are going to get a keyframe. Now I'm going to tap the U key, and as you can see, that has now brought up only the things that I have placed little keyframes on, and so we are in good shape. Our timeline is nice and clean. We can see what we want to work on. I got to feel pretty good about this. So what do we want this to do? Well, we want it to move from one side to the other and stretch in the middle. So methodologically, I recommend whenever doing something like this, let's do the start and the end, then we'll figure out the middle later. So I would like to bring up a proportional grid like so. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag, holding down Shift over here like so. You see, oh, we didn't get all of them. We must have missed one of these paths in here. Let's see here. Path, this path, that one. You can see, hopefully you can kind of see as things get selected. Ooh, I missed a path. Let's go in and find it. Let's go get that path. Let's get that, buddy. There it is. It was the middle of the R. There we go. So now we've got them all. Make sure you get them all. If you miss them, you will regret it. So we select all these keyframes, and you can see that, at least hopefully you can see that all of these things that are selected, they're solid. So if you only have some of them selected, hopefully you can see that some of these little squares get highlighted. So you want to make sure that you have them all selected. That's very critical. And then we are going to hold down Shift, drag over a little bit so we get them touching this bar over here. Let's move ahead to say 3 seconds, and then we're going to drag everybody over here. And so what we've done is we have set keyframes that these are the two positions, and then everything in between is being animated. Now I'm going to grab these ones down here, and let's pull them a little bit further so they bump into this wall over here like that. And let's kind of play that back and forth. This is what we've got. Now, what we want in the middle is an amount of stretching to take place. So we need to kind of bump these things apart from each other. So the way I think I want to do that is, let's see, we are going to grab all of these. I'm going to hold down Shift and hit the right arrow. That'll bump it over a little bit. If you zoom out, you'll see the bump is a little bit more extreme. So let's do that on the ST. Give that a bump. There we go. Maybe 2 bumps. How many bumps did I do? Let's go back. keep things in check here. So we're going to do 1 bump. Then we're going to select just the E and give that an extra bump. Actually, we're going to give it 2 bumps because we're going to take this, we're going to give that a bump, then we're going to select the S, bump, bump. So these things are getting nice and pulled apart from each other. So that's looking pretty good. Now we're going to sort of repeat the process down here on the bottom. You can see that as we were bumping those things, right, it is creating the new keyframes because the property is keyframed. If we start changing things about the path, that is going to add new keyframes for us. So again, we're going to come in here. We want to think about how far do we want this to be particularly going. Now we could just bring it out to the furthest extreme of this, like so, and that'll fill up the space. All right, so that's working out so far so good. And then maybe with the C here, we'll just slide that a little bit to be in the middle. Now we need to deform these. So let's give these a little bit of deformation. Let's say, let's see. Actually, you know what? Before we get into that, let's play what we've done. So boop, boop, like that. So we're getting here and then here, here and then here. So far, not particularly exciting, but don't worry, it'll get better as we build this up layer on layer. Let's go ahead and ease all of these. So we're going to select all of those and hit F9, or you can right-click on them, come down to Keyframe Assistant and say Easy Ease, whatever the keyboard shortcut is for you. You'll see it down here. And now let's play this through and see how that feels. Kind of like that. That's feeling pretty good. If you click on this button, we'll enter our graph editor. You can see 2 bumps because we are looking at a speed graph. And now if we go ahead and we pinch our handles, we give these handles a little bit of a pinch, like this, making it more extreme. So now it looks a little bit like this, that it's stretching, and then compressing like that. So that's exactly what we would like. So you can make this more extreme, less extreme. These handles are saying how much influence each keyframe has over the particular property. So if you want it more extreme, you make these more vertical by stretching the handles. Want it less extreme, you pull them out in the other way. So let's come back here. We'll say, all right, we got to here. Now we basically want to go back. So we're just going to copy this and paste it. And we're going to come down to 5 seconds, select everything from the start, copy that and paste it. If you look back into your graph editor, these handles are not going to look particularly correct because we are copying and pasting things that don't have a lot of information over on this side. So you may have to actually redo your handles just a little bit like this. But don't worry, these things are all malleable and it'll be all fine. So let's fix up our middles, right? This middle part here needs to be stretchy. So let's just go ahead and grab the parts that we want to stretch and we'll pull them out like so. And we'll see if that feels good as we're working on it. So we'll pull this out like this. Maybe we want to keep the vertical part of the T kind of in the middle center like that. Let's pull the H out. But remember, we want to make sure that your playhead is here in the middle. That is going to be very, very important. And let's see, we're going to pull this over like that. And we're going to play this through and see how we like it. Stretch, like that. So it's stretching out and then it's coming back together. I want to pay close attention to the relationship, say, between the R and the T here, right? So as you can see, the R and the T, maybe that's getting a bit too close together. So we're going to just drag that back like that. We're going to see, does the S, yeah, the S looks pretty fine there. We want to maintain kind of those relationships between here so that it feels like it's stretching and not compressing in parts. So that all comes down to feel and working the stuff out. And then when we stretch back the other way, I'm going to grab a different part of the letter. So I'm going to make it so that it gets thicker doing this. So let's see, we're going to go ahead and pull this forward like this. So maybe the H, we're getting big blocky stuff as we're going this way. And then we are going to pull this part of the E. We'll do the same type of thing up here. So remember, we can stretch any part of the thing that we want. Stretch any part of the letters that you feel. If you wanted to stretch out this part of the R, you go crazy with that. Enjoy. We'll see how we enjoy how this has gone. So stretch like that. Now it's going to be a loop. So I'm going to hit N, and then we're going to roll back to the beginning and hit B, so that now we have stretch, like that. And that's working out pretty nicely. Hey, we're halfway through and we're pretty much done. You might be happy with this, where we've landed, and we can call it there. But I want to go a little bit further. I want to take this one step further. I want this to feel like it's got a little bit of momentum to it. So I'm going to hit the P key, or actually I'm going to hold down Shift and hit P. And that's going to add the position to our series of things we have open on the timeline. And I'm going to set a keyframe over here. I'm going to set a keyframe back here. And let's see, I'm just going to hold down Shift and bump this over a little bit. So we are bumping the position over a little bit there. Same thing here. Bump, bump. Go a little bit that way. And then we're going to copy, paste that positional keyframe from the start. So it's sliding over, sliding over. Now I'm going to ease these again. So we're come down to the keyframes, select those keyframes, hit F9 to ease them. And then we come back into the graph editor. And I am actually going to, let's see, I'm going to pull these both kind of this way so that the point of maximum acceleration is here. So that means that we're kind of lagging and then accelerating. That means the acceleration is happening after the snap. So it's like it's catching up and hitting itself, right? The momentum is coming through here. So like that. It's important to make the sound effects because that really sells what is happening in these things. It can help kind of remind you, oh yeah, that's what I was trying to do with this. So remember, the point of maximum acceleration here, these things are stretching, it's getting that inertia, and then the back end is coming up and giving it that push to elastically slide through like that. Congratulations. We've added another layer of complexity. That's got to feel pretty good. So let's go ahead and duplicate this and add some more visual complexity to this. So we're going to duplicate that. I'm going to call this one back. I'm going to call this one colors. And we are going to have a look at that transparency grid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, take the front end of this, maybe I'll take the back end of it, and I'll just bump it a little bit like so. So I'm taking this first keyframe and we're just bumping it sort of to the right in this case. Now remember which directions are which. And then we're going to come to this part and I'm going to bump it a little bit that way. So if we play this through, I'm going to take our proportional grid off so you can really see what's going on. That because I've now adjusted those, it has kind of a 3D aspect to it as this rolls through. And now maybe you want to give this a dark fill like this, make it a little bit more pronounced. See how you feel about this. So it's like it's tilting as we're moving one direction, looking in the other direction. That feels pretty good. That's feeling a little bit graphical, right? And yeah, this is all done in After Effects, the cousin to Premiere. This is where we want to do all of our fancy graphics right here is inside of After Effects. All next week, we're going to be talking about new features coming into Premiere and how to make use of them. I think you're really going to enjoy that. A much more editing-focused week coming up next week. But for now, let us continue on with this. So stretch and compress, stretch and compress. So let's recolor these. Let's give these a nice fancy color. So we're going to come in here, and what I want you to do is click, double click into one of the shapes, and then we're going to change that color. What do you think? We're going to go with sort of a nice blue here. Maybe something like that. And let's see, I'm going to grab a couple of others. So we'll go with this one, and maybe this one, and this one. And then we are going to click on that fill, and then we are going to point it over like this. So there we go. So we're going to move them over like this. Hey, that's looking pretty good. I like that. I like the variety in the color. I don't necessarily want the T's to be the same color, so I'm going to go ahead and sample off of this, but then maybe I'm going to slide us a little bit more into the purple, getting into more of the pink area. Maybe lighten that up like so. Always important to be light. Oopsie doodle. Make sure that when you go to move these things, you don't bump them too much. Be gentle and careful with these types of things. And there we go. So we're gonna get this, and maybe we'll give this like a contrasting color, like a nice bright orange or something like that, so that it really stands out like so. Now we're using the word stretch. I hope you use whatever word makes sense for you. Make sure you're using a font that gives you this option. So if we were to use sort of like a more calligraphy-like font or a more scripty font, probably not as good. If you use sort of a serif font with those nice fluted parts where it hits the baseline, then you will enjoy being able to stretch those types of elements out. But yeah, there's lots of options depending on what you do with your fonts. And there we go. Okay, I'm pretty happy with how this has come together generally. I'm going to say big thumbs up to us on this one. Now, we want to send this out of here. We want to turn this into a GIF or GIF or GIF, as you like. Hello, Umacorn. And we don't want, if you're creating a GIF of some kind, all of this extra space out here is not helpful to us at all. So we want to shrink down our composition to fit, right? Now, there's a few ways that we can do that. The way I recommend just doing it for now is we're going to come into our composition settings, and we are just going to dial down the width. You see, we're dialing down the width, dial it down a bit more, down a bit more. And let's see, 420, that looks pretty good. We want it to be pretty tight because all of these extra pixels are just more data that we don't require. And let's see, is 80 going to be, 80 is too much. 160, there we go. That's looking pretty good. And so there we go. We've got this nice and contained in this little box. And I think that's going to be close enough for our needs. So we want to save our project, and we're going to export this. And the way we're going to do that is through the media encoder. So we're going to come up to Composition, Add to Media Encoder. Now, if you're not familiar with the media encoder, this is a great way of sending things out for final export. They're going to go out into the world and people are going to see them. This is the media encoder interface. So we just have to wait a little while it populates with that thing that I sent it. There it is, showing up. So what it's done is it's actually created a little temporary file out in the world. So it's taken like a copy of our actual After Effects file, and it's going to use that to render, which means while the media encoder is encoding, we can be doing work in other applications without disturbing anything. But I would like to send out a GIF or GIF, however you say it, and you'll come over here to the first drop down. This is what kind of container would you like to put this in, right? So I'd like to put it into right there, animated GIF right there. You could put it into a JPEG sequence. You could put it into an H.264. You could put it into a PNG or a QuickTime MOV. Your list might look different if you're on Windows versus a Mac here, but this is the one we want for our purposes today. And then we have a couple of presets that we can choose from. I'm going to go with the with transparency option because we would love to have some transparency going on. And coming up next, all we need to do is hit go, and we'll see how this works out. So it's going to connect. It's going to figure out what the things are. We're going to cross our fingers that everything works out. It's always a gamble whenever you render, no matter what's going on. It's all part of the game. And we will see how this comes together. So it has completed. If you click on this link, it'll take you to it. Here's a couple that I rendered earlier, but this is the one specifically. And you can see that it does indeed stretch apart like so. This is working out perfectly. Now you can upload this wherever you want, send it to your friends, put it in a text, send it up to Adobe Express so you can put it over top of stuff. I do want to, though, before we leave here, I want to tell you this. Sometimes things don't particularly work out. Let me see if I can show you. Here is another example of one that I rendered. Now, I hope that you can see in here. Maybe I'll make this really big so you can kind of see the weirdness that is taking place in here. You see the T and the H, and they're all like crinkly crackly, right? That's not what we want. We want that to not happen, right? We want this to be nice and clean and poppy and totally fine. And what's going on is an amount of dithering is happening. So what you may need to do is, first off, that was using the other, I'm going to duplicate this, the other one. So if we go animated GIF match source, let me render off one of those. And hopefully we'll be able to observe this problem live. Is it happening in this one? Let me roll that one up. No, it is not. Well, maybe it is just a little bit. But the settings that you want to look for in here, if you are finding that type of dithery-do going on, just duplicate this, duplicate us off another one of those. Come into your settings. So if you click on the actual word here, animated GIF, that'll take you into the specific settings in here. We get really, really specific about this. And you will likely want to ask it for some maximum depth, maximum render quality. And when it comes to transparency, this is where you want to say, give me hard edges, not dithered edges. Now, the dithering will cause that little bit of crawling ants everywhere. Dithering, a wonderful bit of technology for its time, and it can be very useful if, say, your design has way more colors than the actual GIF container can accept. So then things will need to be dithered in order to try to make the smoothness out of the limited palette that we actually have to play with. So you may need to do that, but for our purposes, hard edges is the type of thing that we want. So just check those when you're doing stuff, and if things don't look particularly correct, you may need to do that. Trying to think what else we can do. We can always render this off and then even open it up in Photoshop and then use Photoshop's rendering to take that MOV or that MP4 and then send that out using its own type of encoding if there are really extreme cases. However, we've used up all of our time. We got too extreme and now we're at the end of it. So I hope that you make something interesting with this and you share it with me. We want to see it on the Discord. So come on over, share the work with me on the Discord, PR Discord, bit.ly/PR Discord. There are more things coming up today, so I hope you stick around and enjoy those. As well, you are going to see me again next week. So I'll be back on Monday. I'm here for 2 shows on Monday. So we'll be dipping into Premiere, and then we will be talking about some pretty advanced stuff in After Effects in the Motion Design Hotline. So I hope to see you there. I'm Evan Abrams. Find me on the internet at EC Abrams. Come into the Discord, show me what you're doing, and stick around on Adobe Live for the rest of the shows we've got going on today. But bye for now. Stay creative. Be kind to each other. I'll see you all around the internet. Bye for now.